thank Kev Mo for reminding us to stand up and be strong. We're in Chicago, and that's what we do. And we welcome all of you sisters, brothers, friends, neighbors, family, actually all citizens of the world, to another edition of Live from the Heartland. We call it Heartland at home because we're still doing Zooms out of our homes. Hopefully we'll get back in the studio sooner or later. Today we have a really nice lineup. We're going to welcome Mark Kelly, Commissioner from the Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, along with Carlos Tortellero, who works closely with him. And we're going to have Oscar Arriola and Chema Skandal of the upcoming Zine Mercado taking place in Logan Square.
It's an arts-heavy show. It's an arts-heavy show. I love it.
Good morning to you, Katie, and tell us something good going on in your life.
A good thing this week was the Network 49 meeting held Monday evening at the Loyola Park bleachers. It was gorgeous outside, and it was a really nice time to get together with folks, first time in person since the pandemic. How about you? Do you have a good thing to remember for us?
Well, I got to say, I've had my arm in a sling now for 3 weeks, 24/7. And I've got 3 more weeks till I think it comes off. And what I've started to do is going on my porch every morning, watching traffic and people walk by, and walking on my porch to Democracy Now! And I got to say, Democracy Now! Really has a lot of information, particularly in this case about Afghanistan, that we're not getting on the regular mainstream news. I encourage people to listen to it and other news sources to kind of get some background, some more than just a line about blaming the Afghan soldiers for not doing a good enough job, et cetera, et cetera. Check it out. There is a lot more going on in the world that we're hearing about.
Okay, you kind of zoomed into the news portion of our banter.
I couldn't help it.
I know. I mean, we're praying for Afghanistan. I'm wondering if it will engender the kind of national exchange on foreign policy and mission and execution of said mission we've so long needed. And I wonder when that will be able to happen in America. So that's what I think about the Afghanistan thing. What did you were reacting to something you read on the environment?
Well, I read a lot these days, and on the environmental front this week, a federal judge rejects the Trump era permits for a major Alaska oil project. The Washington Post reported that U.S. District Court Judge Sharon Gleason threw out key permits for ConocoPhillips's Willow project this past Wednesday on the grounds that federal officials failed to adequately analyze the project's climate impact and other possible developmental plans, and didn't specify how polar bears would be protected.
And we need that specified. Those poor babies out there on floes of ice floating around. Well, that's kind of good news.
Yeah, it was intended as a good newser.
The other terrible news, I mean, some of the other terrible news is the hurricane in Haiti, which is just causing incredible human suffering on top of all the other human suffering that was already going on in that small island, non-paradise. Thinking of those folks. I read and was struck by the piece by Charles Blow in the New York Times about how the release of the census data is terrifying for white nationalists, being that white people are less than. This was the first census, I guess, ever where white people did not increase. And of course, everyone else did. Me, I think it's a good idea.
On the voter suppression and voter protection front, Peter Stone reported in The Guardian this past Wednesday that the conservative campaign to curb voting rights has helped spur passage of bills in at least 18 states, and backed by big money, is now widening its scope across the U.S. in a concerted effort to suppress the vote and favor Republicans. This is according to election law experts and watchdogs. The lobbying and media drive is aiming to spend tens of millions of dollars and is led by well-funded conservative and dark money groups, some of whom are also pressing Congress to block Democrat-backed bills to protect voting rights nationally, say the watchdogs and election law experts. Little information to keep us aware of the real challenges ahead of us and the upcoming 2022 election.
Yeah, yikes. Well, see the census numbers and let the redistricting and gerrymandering begin. What was the other thing? Oh, just one thing on immigration. Everyone's commented on the number of immigrants and descendants of immigrants responsible for bringing Olympic medals back home for the USA, and also women had more medals than men. First time. Very glad.
It's going to keep happening.
All right, so we're gonna thank you for listening, first of all, and stay tuned for our first guests, which are Mark Kelly of Commissioner of DCASE, Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, and Carlos Tortellero, who is a program associate and booker of bands. That was requested by our Commissioner of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, who's with us here, Mark Kelly. Welcome, Mark Kelly. And thank you for asking for that great Chicago musician, Curtis Mayfield. And also we are joined with Carlos Tortellero, who is a program, I think you book the bands, really. I think you're the booker is what we would have called you in the restaurant business. Thank you both for joining us. You've got a major unfolding that happened in August of Chicago in Tune Music Festival. And we wanted to ask you about that because we have a long history and appreciated history with a lot of the people from the office that preceded you. I was a kid and grew up under Colonel Jack Riley. I think he was the first special events dude under Richard J. Daley. And then we had Kathy Osterman, Lois Weisberg, Helen Doria, a lot of good folks who helped do incredible cultural developments in our city. So you're the next in a long line of really good workers. How is it to be coming out of pandemic with an agenda that is mostly about performance on stages? Huge challenge, no?
Oh, well, huge challenge. So this is the year of Chicago music, which, by the way, was to be in 2020, but we got waylaid by that little thing called the pandemic. And then here we are, and we're still in the midst of it and struggling. But we were determined that the year of Chicago music was going to live and that it was going to help reshape the music landscape of the city going forward. So today we start with Chicago in Tune, the most insane music festival on the face of the globe. And I think that's not hyperbole. I think that's an accurate statement. There's over almost 600 music events. Many of them are produced by us, by Carlos here and others, free across the city, but it's also the festivals of the city, the clubs of the city. And all of this is to remind us that we are a world music capital and we need to better sort of embrace that idea and push it forward in the life of the city.
Commissioner, I'm going to read a quote from you, which I really loved. And then you can tell us a little bit more about Chicago in Tune. You said, Chicago is a city that knows how to strike a chord. It's a city that knows how to find its harmony in the hustle. It's a city where everyone knows how to move to their own beat, yet everyone comes together to play in the same key, the key of Chicago. This year, we're beating the drum for Chicago's music industry by inviting all music lovers to experience new artists, styles, and venues from intimate settings to iconic outdoor stages. This truly is the year of Chicago music. What inspired you to write that? And did you write it late at night, early in the morning? It's part of a longer piece.
Well,
as a
nice percussionist, and I'm not terribly good percussionist, but the key word is the beat of the city. And so we have a new tagline for Chicago. We've never had that one line that captured music in the city. It's music in the key of Chicago. And what that says is Chicago doesn't have one sound. It's not New Orleans or Memphis or Austin or Nashville. Chicago has a multiplicity of sounds, genres. We're a city of, it's great classical and experimental and hip hop and blues and jazz and house and gospel, the list goes on. But regardless of the genre, that big, brassy, bold sound of Chicago comes through. And so we're celebrating that sound, and then we're encouraging all of our audience. We're encouraging people to come to the city seeing it as a music capital, but all of our audience to get out and experience things they would not have experienced in the past. Go to neighborhoods, go to different clubs, listen to genres that you haven't listened to before, because that's the beat of the Chicago music scene.
Can I ask you, we were sent by Nina some 6 pages in small print, mind you, of these events. How would someone not looking at the press release be able to see the list of events? Because I didn't find that page. Is there a link that we should share with folks to find the entire list?
Yeah, Do 312 is our partners. And so you just go to Chicago in Tune at Do 312, and all of the events are listed. And you need to take a little time to go through it, because
I know.
There is so much. But and what I'm quite proud of is that here we are, Chicago, this deeply segregated city. And systemic racism has had everything to do with the lack of support and appreciation for music in the city. But music is living in every neighborhood of Chicago. We are presenting free programs. The South and West Side are just filled with the joy of music. And Carlos just also noted that you can go to chicago.gov/music and also find the calendar. But I'll let Carlos speak about in particular, because he is one of the key staff who have brought together a lot of the DCASE produced events within the festival. Carlos, tell us all the gems you're bringing.
Thank you, Commissioner. So as the Commissioner alluded to, there's a number of events taking place within this month-long period, which again starts today and goes through September 19th. I'm one of a couple of programmers on staff who's been tasked with producing a lot of these events. And I primarily work on blues programming. So in light of the fact that we're not able to have our usual blues festival, we were challenged with trying to think of creative ways to implement blues programming through this month. So we have a reimagined series of blues events taking place within this month-long period. A lot of different exciting showcases. I'm going to go in a chronological order, just highlighting some of these events, but we're going to have a huge Bronzeville Blues Showcase on Sunday, August 29th from 12 to 6:30 p.m. with 3 stages featuring 12 bands that are all local and will all be performing on outdoor stages. And it's between 43rd and Calumet and King Drive on what is known as Muddy Waters Drive. And it's tethered to another DCASE initiative known as Music Lives Here, which is a public art initiative. It's part of what is a multimedia project that is highlighting 50 key historical Chicago markers, key markers that have been, instrumental in terms of the Chicago music landscape. So specifically to Bronzeville, those sites that we're acknowledging are the old Checkerboard Lounge, Buddy Guy's original club, Teresa's, Peppers, and we're building, context around these live events, celebrating, music that literally happened on these sites. There'll be a stage literally on top of the old Checkerboard Lounge. So it's an opportunity for us to reconnect to our history. Obviously, Bronzeville is one of the epicenters of blues music in Chicago, and the other one being the West Side. And we're producing a West Side Blues Showcase in Austin known as Soul City Blues, which will be on Sunday, September 12th. And that's going to include 2 stages and run from 12 to 8 p.m. It's going to be at Chicago and Mayfield, again, in the Austin neighborhood. And we're going to have 7 bands performing along with different community groups that will be participating. And again, the idea is to highlight our history and these neighborhoods that have been instrumental to the Chicago music and blues landscape. So these are really two big showcases to look forward to. A lot of notable acts, all local Chicago acts. So we're proud to continue that. An additional thing that we're doing is we're going to have a free admission Chicago Blues Club City Tour that's taking place September 1st through September 6th. It includes 11 venues, 20 free shows in total. It's being promoted with our partner, Civil, the Chicago Independent Venue League, that has been instrumental in advocating for independent music scene amid the pandemic and what they're facing. And they've been part of the whole Save Our Stages campaign. And we've been working with them regularly these past couple of years, especially in light of the pandemic. And this is another way that we are working to bring programming directly to them. They're obviously going to host all these artists, produce the shows with us and promote them. And it's obviously a great opportunity for tourists and Chicagoans to see a lot of cool stuff. So that'll be happening, free admission, 11 venues, September 1st through the 6th. In addition to that, we're also, again, tied to the Music Lives Here public art initiative. We're going to do a 4-part music concert series at Willie Dixon's Blues Heaven Foundation, the original Chess Records site at 2120. And again, the idea is to highlight our Chicago music history. And as that pertains to blues, obviously Chess is expansive and covered gospel and jazz as well. We're going to focus on blues, and we'll have those 4 concerts in their garden space from 6 to 8:30 p.m. But Chess has been amazing enough to host free tours at their space from 12 to 4 for each of these days, which is Sunday, August 29th, September 5th, September 12th, and September 19th. So if you call and RSVP in advance, you can get a free tour at Chess, coupled with the fact that we're going to have these Music Lives Here markers on what's known as Record Row, which is basically Roosevelt and Michigan to Cermak in Michigan. And in terms of the sites that we're going to be acknowledging for Record Row, obviously there's a number of sites you could designate, but we're going to focus on Chess Records, Constellation Records, Jerry Butler's Songwriters Works, Wonderful Records, and VJ Records, and Brunswick Records. So those 5 sites are part of this, again, Music Lives Here public art initiative that totals 50 sites in total, not just in blues, across all genres, but I'm a bit biased having the luxury of being able to produce the blues programming for the city. So that's another great event that we'll have. Lastly, we'll be celebrating 50 years of Alligator Records, the largest independent blues music label in the world. Obviously, Alligator's had an amazing history, has been instrumental in putting not only Chicago bands on the map, but national and international acts as well. And they're going to have a showcase on Saturday, September 18th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. on the Pritzker stage. It's going to feature 3 bands on the Alligator label. Starting off will be the Nick Moss Band featuring Dennis Brudling. And it's going to feature Wayne Baker Brooks as a special guest who's going to be honoring his dad, who was a big part of Alligator. We're also going to have the Nick, Little Ed and the Blues Imperials with Billy Branch as a special guest. And then we're going to cap it off with the Cashbox Kings and special guest Shamika Copeland, all performing from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. We intend to have just a nonstop music extravaganza highlighting that legacy. And that should be an epic concert, and greatly looking forward to all these events, again, that are taking place within Chicago and Tune.
Is that last one a free concert as well? The one.
Everything we do is free. Everything we do is free.
Well,
let me ask you, Carlos, I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
All of those are free, though Chicago in Tune is a mix of both ticketed and free events. So you could just spend your entire time going to the free events, but we also want to support the clubs. We want to support the musicians. So it's about the entire music landscape.
Carlos, let me ask you, what is your secret potion to way that you go about staying on top of what's happening musically around this very musical city? There's a lot to handle. You got a handle on it. How do you do it?
Well, this is government work, and it's an honor to be in this position. So we always try to do things in a transparent way. And with the blues programming, we have a 20-person committee that helps to inform the process, help to inform the bookings. And that includes record label executives to musicians to journalists. So it's a good mix of folks who know what they're doing to help make sure that we have a balanced, well-represented lineup that highlights everything that we need to highlight. Not to be arrogant, we all feel that we could do it ourselves unilaterally, but that's really not the way to go about it. And I think when you allow a window into the process and the community can see how these events come about, they really appreciate it and understand the nuances and difficulties that can arise in doing such large scale programming. So I'm blessed to work with some amazing individuals. It's a volunteer committee. They all donate their time free of charge. So it's a blessing, and that's a key way that we do the bookings, at least for blues. Every festival is unique. Jazz has a committee, etc.
You did an incredible job of running down that incredibly long list of events coming up. So thank you for that, Carlos. I want to ask just another to the side question. Lollapalooza was an incredible success in that it did not become a super spreader event, thanks to the care and caution that was taken, I guess, at the start of it. Do you find yourself, and is there any kind of correlation with your music events and maybe a vaccine van appearing at the same time? Is there any of that going on?
Oh yeah, in so many ways. First of all, I should let you know, most of the clubs are requiring, like Lollapalooza, both the clubs and festivals. So Pitchfork and Riot Fest and ARC, the list goes on, proof of vaccination or a recent COVID-19 test. In addition, as part of Chicago in Tune, we're actually producing two major concerts, again free, Subalo and the Chosen Few, the DJs, the house event, and these will require vaccination to come in, and you have to do that beforehand. So these are going to be really high-level events featuring Latino music and house music, but you have to have your vaccination card and you have to register beforehand. Another way of just encouraging everyone to be safe. So we're confident going into this. We have to, obviously the Delta variant is of real concern, but so many of the events are outside, and literally almost every one of the events inside requires a vaccination.
And finally, can we this is a completely impossible question. So I know that already.
We'll see.
But can you give us an example or two of some of the favorite unique to Chicago events / festivals / celebrations that you are a part of?
Well, it's like asking a parent which is your favorite child.
I know. I'm sorry.
No parent has.
A couple of things that come to mind. First of all, we have 9 festivals within Chicago in Tune, right? So Pitchfork and Riot Fest, but 2 that I love. One is a new festival called Built in Chicago. It'll be 39th and the lake on the south side. I don't have the date in front of me. I think it's in 2 weeks, but that's going to be all Chicago talent. Another festival that I love is Air Taxi, and it's at
what? Say that again.
Air Taxi, EAR Taxi, which is a festival of experimental music in Chicago. And so, you go from built in Chicago to experimental music. In terms of DCASE events, we are through Chicago Presents, we funded $800,000 for community events in literally almost every neighborhood. So whether it's Morgan Park, or it's Roseland, or it's South Chicago, or it's Bronzeville, or it's Austin, or Auburn Gresham, major events. These are, very much like what Carlos just described. So I'm not going to pick one of them, but man, so many. And then house, jazz, blues, and gospel. We're doing, you heard Carlos talk about blues. We're doing the equivalent in house, jazz, and gospel. And it's going to be in Millennium Park. It's going to be in the neighborhoods. So, man, it's just a love fest with the Chicago music scene.
Well,
And to
great.
add, we still have our Millennium Park Music Series, our beloved Millennium Park Music Series that takes place Mondays and Thursdays, August 2nd through September 18th, with the blues concert being the finale concert. To add to that, we're having 4 legacy concerts at the Pritzker and gospel, jazz, blues, and house that are part of this year's Millennium Park Music Series, the bulk of which is curated and produced by my colleague, David Chavez. I do want to add that, we have, as the commissioner mentioned, not only events that we produce in the house, but a ton of events that we just support, either with financial support or permitting. But we launched a major grant initiative called Chicago Presents that has allowed for so many community partners to either continue to program or come up with original programming throughout the city. And all of that activity is mostly taking place within Chicago in Tune. So, these combined efforts are just generating so much activity citywide that, there's enough for everybody.
You guys have given us more time than we thought we'd take. So we really appreciate that. And mostly we appreciate the way you've approached sharing arts in Chicago. Nothing could be more important to all of us out here. And we thank you very much. So we won't keep you. You have a lot of work to do to get this music on these stages. So blessings be. And have a good day. Good one.
Let the good times roll.
Michael,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Carlos.
Bye, Dad.
Hey, thanks for all that information. There's a lot of good music coming our way here in Chicago. Okay, welcome back to this edition of Live from the Heartland. And I'm really happy to bring on a couple of guys who I met first through doing a thing called the Photo Mercado at the Ace Hotel. And there I was introduced to all kind of books of photography, from little tiny mimeographed paper things folded and stapled, which are called zines, to very fancy books. And the key guy there was Oscar Arriola, who also has become a friend and lives in Rogers Park. These two guys, Chema, Skandal, and Oscar Arriola, are the two people behind a thing called Zine Mercado. And there's going to be a Zine Mercado event on Sunday, August 29th in Logan Square, which we'll hear more about. But let's hear a little about zines and talk to you guys. Good morning to you both. So glad to have you on. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. Just getting ready to go on a trip to Pittsburgh in a few minutes.
Pittsburgh.
New York. But, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Tell us what a zine is. Tell our listeners who don't know a lot about it. What are zines?
Sure.
Oscar, you go.
Are self-published small magazines, basically. They've had different eras of popularity. Like in the 50s, people were doing like sci-fi stories. 70s, 80s, there's a lot of like girl power and women run. There's a lot of punk zines in the 70s. And there's been a big resurgence of them in the last decade or so. There has been definitely a lot of zine fests in the last 10 years. Pretty much every city in the country, even small towns, have zine fests now. So it's just a fun way to publish something in a very cheap way and share like a very idiosyncratic view of anything, basically.
How did you two guys meet each other?
We went through art.
Yes.
Oscar is a big art supporter. and I happen to be an artist. So we met at one of my shows, I think. Right, Oscar? Probably around 2001.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
met in Tulsa at one
2011.
of the shows. Yeah, I think it was maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, I don't remember the
Yeah.
year. But
How has the zine scene evolved here in Chicago? I mean, you talked about how it's all over the country, but what's the scene here in Chicago? I know besides your Zine Mercado, there's also a Zine Fest, which is, I think, a big event that was put on hold for a year. Tell us about the scene here in Chicago.
yeah, Chicago Zine Fest started about a decade ago or a little more longer. And that one's evolved into at least 200 or 250 exhibitors from around the country. So it's become one of the biggest fests in the country. And there's a similar fest called Cake, which is a Chicago Alternative Comics Expo. And it's all independent comics, but they're basically zines on the most part because they're small, independently published, really nicely printed. And so those are the two main fests in Chicago. And we were invited by the film programmers at Comfort Station to present a smaller fest in Logan Square 6 years ago by Raul and Nando. So we're pretty much the only other fest that I know of, I think. Of course, there's really small ones too. But yeah, we've been doing this for 6 years, and we usually have about 40 exhibitors. Although this year, because of COVID, we reduced it to 20.
And that's going to be held where and when? Give us more detail.
Sure, it's going to be Sunday, August 29th, outside of Comfort Station, which is on the corner of Logan Boulevard and Milwaukee Avenue, right across from the Logan Eagle Monument. And it's going to be from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And they're pretty much local people, or you got people coming from other places?
It's majority local. We have some hyper local people like Matt Bergstrom, who's from Logan Square. He does a really great zine about the history of the street he lives on Lyndale. So that's in Logan Square. And but we have some people coming from Pittsburgh, Detroit, and we also have people sending in work from London and Mexico too as well.
Can I ask you, are zines always political? Or
no. I think in the 90s when I first came across zines, I saw a lot of graffiti zines, and then I went to a zine fest at DePaul University, and that one definitely had a lot of political and per zines, which are like personal zines, social issues. But again, I think there's just been different eras of zines, and I think a lot of artists have seized upon it as an economical way of sharing their work. So I'm particularly interested in photography and graffiti and street art zines.
Chema,
But I think that being said, definitely zines are also an alternative for people self-publishing, and most of the time they share their political views. And also, well, as I was growing up, because I'm from Mexico City originally, I saw a lot of political scenes and, like punk scenes, and mostly at the college, at the university. Some students were publishing their points of view. So I think that, coming from that ism too, people have been this left-leaning, type of magazines. Mm-hmm.
Chema, Skandal, we're so happy that you're with us. And we saw online some of your wall painting murals. They're outstanding and seem to fit right in with the Chicago mural scene. As you come from, as you said, at VIF, one of the premier mural locations in the hemisphere, were you surprised at the amount of street art in Chicago?
Yeah, well, I come from from Mexico City, as I said, but I was studying illustration at the university, which is La UNAM, and it's also a free university, the first university of the continent, founded by Spaniards back in, after the conquistadors, right? But I wasn't into public or street art at all back in Mexico. I had a lot of friends that were getting into this world. I know they are super famous and big muralists, but I happened to paint my first mural here in Chicago, and that is also another thing that connects me with Oscar, with Photo Flow, and with Brooks Golden, who was a street artist, and he was a beloved friend of us. He's gone now, but he left a mural in Pilsen the next block where I painted my first mural on 16 and Paulina. So yeah, I mean, art and murals as a public art. There's something I really like and enjoy, that it connects people, and that's how we connected. We started working together, and we've been doing that since then.
Okay, can you tell me what is wheat pasting, please?
Oh well, wheat pasting is another form of public art or street art, and for me, art is like a cycle, because I was doing this in Mexico City around 1999, which happened to be a student strike at my high school, and we were doing these posters or political, propaganda, and also pasting it around, because that was our social media for times. And I know you are very familiar with this here in Rogers Park, and the students movement in Chicago. But it has changed a little. Now you have artists specializing in street art and wheat pasting, but it's basically pasting paper around, or the same as it would be putting stickers around the city.
Got it. Well, we should invite you to our neighborhood this weekend for the Glenwood Avenue Arts Fest, because you could see the mile of murals and a lot of music, and it's when the neighborhood most feels like New Orleans, when people are walking around with cans of beer in their, glasses of beer in their hands.
Oscar, before we let you go off to Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
we know that the Zine Mercado and Photo Flow, you do a lot of other things besides this event at the Comfort Station at Logan Square. Tell us a little bit about other events that you've been putting on and things that you do.
Sure. Well, I work for the Chicago Public Library. So over the years, I've been lucky enough to be able to present different artists to speak about their work, and also do exhibitions. We've had a lot of great people either traveling or from the city present their work that way. Also part of Zine Mercado, for a couple of years, we did Photo Mercado, which is where you showed up and showed your work. And again, it was a zine fest, but it was all photography. And we also invited people to sell things like vintage film or prints of their work, things like that. And because Chema created our Hobo logo, we realized that we could just make it a roving fest. So Chema's presented Zine Mercado in London and in Mexico City in different iterations, and I did one in Oakland too. So it's been kind of fun to just spread the zine fest and just have it pop up anywhere around the world, and meet new artists that way too.
So it was interesting to come to your art, Chema, last night after I had just gone to Banksy, the show yesterday in Chicago. And here you are with a mask on, which is very Banksy-ish. And I love your art. And what do you want to say about whether or not you were inspired by Banksy, or just came along as, same road at the same time? Sometimes that happens. Any inspiration there for you?
Well, yeah, for sure. Not only Banksy, but other artists that have been doing that kind of art before him. And 2 years ago, we were in the UK, and my friend, who's a record collector, comes from Bristol, and it happens his now girlfriend used to hang out with Banksy over there in the city. So it's fun how I was saying before, how would you connect with other artists and people that are interested in it, and of course we all influence each other. I think that happened with how Zine Mercado started, and then our spin-offs, which is To Mercado, and now we have Print Mercado and Disco Mercado, which is print only and printmaking small festival, and record collectors, and also record swappers. One thing I want to say is we started Logan Square, the Zine Mercado, that we also called Logan Square Independence Zine Fest, because we wanted to keep a little bit of a community sense, if that makes sense. Here in the neighborhood, I live in Logan Square, and I moved from Mexico City a decade ago. But I've seen it changing so fast that I reached out to Polish people that were the main ethnicity here. Before it has changed a lot, and that's why we reached out to young Latino artists, but not only them. And the other thing is zine mercado in Spanish. It also could be said sin mercado, which means without market, and that's another part of zines or fanzines, as we call them in Latin America. It's you don't have to sell your zine, your self-published stuff. You can also trade them. So that's another part of a ethos of this culture or subculture, if you want.
That's very nice. Very nice. Buena onda, as we used to say in Mexico.
Buena onda. Eso.
Buena onda. Well, I think we've run out of time. Do you have one more question, Michael? You usually do.
I'm good. I'm just excited to finally meet Chema in with a mask on
And without.
and without. And I'm looking forward to being out there on August 29th with you guys. I'll see you there with hopefully I'm gonna have my my books and a zine too, a new zine, as well as some photographs.
Thanks a lot.
Oscar, you want to announce?
Thank you. Just really quick, I just wanted to show some of Chema's work. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I'm glad that he's the art director for the fest too. So it's just his style is just like really beautiful, and this is our Hobo logo. He did a Halloween version of him. This is a newer sticker that he made about zines too. And just really quick too, we have friends like Eric Von Haynes from Chicago who's bringing in different zines. These are some older ones that he's done. Mix of print styles, screen printing, letterpress. So yeah, it's a fun fest. People bring all kinds of work, photography, graffiti, and art scenes.
Hey,
So just to mention, we're having activities Friday the 27th, Saturday the 28th, and the big event, which is the Sunday 29th.
thanks a lot for making time for us this morning, you two. It's been
Hasta
great.
luego, buena suerte.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Gracias por todo.
Buena suerte.
Vemos.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nos
you.
vemos. God, I love me some Funkadaisy. I can't wait to see him on stage tonight or tomorrow night, whichever it is they're on, at the Glenwood Avenue Arts Fest. The highlights and headliners last year, the fest went mobile on a flatbed holding live bands with side panels featuring some of the artwork, cruising the neighborhood, 4 different cruises of the neighborhood. Very creative. Nice going, Glenwood Avenue Arts Fest. This year, we're back to the streets, Morrison Glenwood to be exact, with all the art, music, food, and beverage one needs on a lovely summer weekend in the neighborhood. Join us. It's one of my favorite weekends in Rogers Park. Also an event that we want to let people know about, which is Housing Opportunities for Women here in Rogers Park, hosts a Day of Giving, August 25th. That's this coming week. Look at HOW, Housing Opportunities for Women, for details.
And next Friday, August 27th, there will be a picnic and a movie at Potawatomi Park featuring music, crafts, games, and much more. The fun will start at 6 p.m., the movie at 8:30. Be a great neighborhood event.
And we're going to go out today, like we often do, with Twin Peaks singing Our World.
Yeah.
This show is, we brought to you live from the Heartland for over 25 years, now called Heartland at Home. Broadcast every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central on Chicago's WLUW 88.7 FM, streaming from WLUW.org, archived on our channel at youtube.com/heartlandmedia, and cablecast all week long on CAN TV, channel 27, although they're usually about a week late. But anyway, thanks to our Live from the Heartland crew, Gwen Brown, Lynn Orman Weiss, James Porter, and now Live from the Heartland on Spotify. Go to Spotify podcast and type in Live from the Heartland Google Podcast. Please, my fellow people, do good in the world.
Hey, the world needs all the good that we do. All power,
All power
to the
to the people.
See you next week.